When did you find a burner phone under your seat and question everything? Okay, deep breath. I am typing this on my iPhone 14, which is currently at 4% battery, in the parking garage of the Aurelian Towers Luxury Hotel, and I literally just found a burner phone taped underneath the driver's seat of my beat-up 2018 Honda Civic. I don't even know where to start with this dumpster fire, honestly. It's 2:17 a.m. on a Wednesday. I should be sleeping because I have an 8 a.m. Zoom meeting, but my hands are shaking so badly I can barely hold the Talenti gelato container I stress ate half of. Tell me I am not crazy, please. This is about Andrea Griffin, 70F, my partner. Correction, my ex-partner. We were together for 2 years and 8 months. 2 years and 8 months of what I thought was this amazing, adult, sophisticated relationship, because she was, successful. She was the CEO of a mid-level consultancy firm. I am Rose Patterson, 18F, a full-time college student trying to finish my associate's degree while working 30 hours a week at a coffee shop on Main Street just to afford my $43.67 grocery bill from Trader Joe's every week. The financial gap was huge, but she always framed it as, I am taking care of you, Rose. No one else would understand your potential like I do. I know, past me was such an idiot. It was giving major red flag energy, but I was so flattered. Andrea, or Andy, as she insisted everyone call her, has always been controlling. Not in the yelling kind of way, but in the subtle, insidious way that makes you question your own sanity. She's a serial cheater, something I found out after we got serious. She admitted it to me a year ago, saying, I have certain needs, Rose, but you are the only one I truly love. He'd cheated on her 2 previous wives and countless short-term partners. When I asked why she told me, she smiled that perfect practice smile and said, because I know you're strong enough to handle my truth. NGL, at the time, I thought that was deep. Now, I think she just wanted to ensure I knew I was disposable, but also that I was the chosen victim to endure her mess. The setting for this current nightmare is the Aurelian Towers, which is ridiculously luxurious. We're staying in the presidential suite. Andy had some huge conference this week, and I was tagging along, supposedly as her personal assistant / arm candy, because she didn't trust me to stay home alone while she was out of town. The suite alone costs $3,500 a night. Meanwhile, I was worried about my $1,247 portion of the rent back home for apartment 3, the math never mathed with Andy, but I just smiled and nodded. First crack in my perfect facade happened Tuesday at 11:47 a.m. I was trying to study for my psych final on the couch, surrounded by massive, fluffy pillows that probably cost more than my laptop. Andy was downstairs in a meeting. My phone rang. It was my friend Lisa Garcia, 53F. Lisa is a mess, honestly. She's my oldest friend's mom, and she recently got dumped by her deadbeat dad husband, which frankly was long overdue. Lisa's currently broke and has been hitting me up for money a lot lately, which is exhausting. I answered the call, prepared to hear another story about needing $200 for emergency dental work. Rose, honey, you're still with Andy Griffin, right? Lisa sounded completely frantic, like she'd been running. Yeah, Lisa, we're actually in the city for her conference. Why? Oh my God, Rose, I need you to listen to me and not tell anyone I called. I knew she was bad news. I saw her at Starbucks this morning, the one near the office on 5th floor. I remember looking down at my coffee, a massive $6 latte from the Aurelian's gourmet coffee shop, and just feeling my stomach clench. Okay, what did she do? Was she with another assistant? Because that was her usual shtick. No, honey, worse. She was with Andrea Lopez, 19F. I paused. Andrea Lopez, I knew that name. Andrea Lopez was the intern Andy hired 3 months ago, a girl my age. Girl who always looked at me with this weird, slightly smug pity whenever she was around the office. Andy always brushed off Andrea Lopez's behavior, saying, she's just young and competitive, Rose. She looks up to me, but she struggles with self-esteem. Lopez, what about her? I tried to keep my voice flat, but my heart was starting to race. They weren't acting like boss and intern, Rose. They were laughing, and Andy had her hand on her arm, right? But then Lopez was showing Andy her phone, and she was scrolling through TikTok. And I saw your face on the screen, Rose, your face. And Lopez was saying, and I quote, see, she's such a baby. Totally obsessed with her, even after everything I did. And Andy was just CAKED up laughing. The world went silent for a second. I swear my ears started ringing. Andrea Lopez, 19F, the workplace bully who Andy supposedly mentored, was showing Andy videos of me. Laughing about it, I stammered, I wait, what? What did she mean, everything I did? Lisa's voice dropped to a frantic whisper. Rose, I knew that girl looked familiar. Andrea Lopez works at your coffee shop. She was the one who was messing up your tips and changing your schedule around 3 weeks ago. You remember complaining about that? Oh my God. Oh my actual God. 3 weeks ago, I had an awful run of luck. My hours were suddenly cut in half. A shift manager kept scheduling me for the absolute worst times. I was missing $200 from my weekly paychecks, and my tips were completely screwed up. I was averaging maybe $4.50 an hour in tips when I usually pulled $15. I was so stressed because I needed that money to cover the unexpected $85 plumber charge we got last month and to contribute my half of the $347 electric bill. I remember telling Andy about it. I was in tears one night, curled up next to her, explaining that I might have to drop a class because I couldn't afford the textbook if my hours didn't stabilize. Andy had wrapped me in a blanket and stroked my hair. She said, Rose, look at you. You are being dramatic. You're too sensitive about your job. You should quit that dead-end place. Let me handle everything. I'll just increase your allowance. No one else would put up with you needing so much support, but I love you. I felt nauseous. The panic wasn't just in my chest. It was vibrating through my whole body. Lisa, are you telling me Andrea Lopez, the intern, the girl who was mocking me with Andy this morning, is the same Andrea Lopez who was bullying me at the coffee shop and sabotaging my income? Yes, Rose. I think Andy put her up to it. She was doing it to stress you out so you'd rely on her more. I heard the Lopez girl complaining to Andy that it was hard work keeping track of Rose's schedules and making sure the tips were rerouted to a Cash App account. I hung up on Lisa. I didn't say goodbye. I just dropped the phone onto the silk duvet. I felt so stupid, so naive. Past me was an absolute clown for not seeing this. It was calculated. The whole point was to make me feel small, unstable, and entirely dependent on her wealth and generosity. She was isolating me, pushing me out of my only steady job, and then gaslighting me into thinking I was the one being dramatic and too sensitive. The rage I felt was volcanic. I wanted to scream, but we were in the presidential suite, and the walls were probably thin. I saw red. I didn't even have a moment to process the sheer audacity of this plan before the next piece of chaos hit. I was pacing the living room, hands pressed to my temples, trying to figure out what I needed to pack and how fast I could call in Uber, when I heard the ping from Andy's personal phone. Andy is obsessed with technology. She has an iPhone 14, an Apple Watch Ultra, a Samsung Galaxy for international business, she claims, and a Ring doorbell for her apartment. She literally cannot remember passwords to save her life, but she's paranoid about security. Keeps her phones locked down, but she had left her personal iPhone charging on the nightstand, and because it'd been watching Netflix on her tablet earlier, the Bluetooth-connected notification popped up. The text was on the lock screen. From a contact simply labeled L, it read, "Tell her the car service is booked for tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. sharp, and the apartment code is 8847. We need her gone before the gala. Don't worry, the security deposit is covered." My jaw literally dropped, like cartoon character jaw drop. Tell her the car service is booked. We need her gone. The math wasn't mathing. The gala wasn't until Saturday. Why was I leaving tomorrow at 5:30 p.m.? Andy had told me we were booked for the entire week. I didn't even hesitate. All the rules I had about privacy, about trust, about being a good partner, out the window. Andy had just destroyed my ability to earn a living and mocked me with her new teenage sidekick. She forfeited the right to privacy the moment she started coordinating my sabotage. I grabbed the phone. Her screen unlock code is embarrassing easy. It's the year she won some pointless award, 1999. I slid the text open. It wasn't just the text from L, there was a long conversation thread. L was Lisa Garcia, 53F. Not my friend Lisa, but Andy's former friend, a different older woman with the same first name and ex-colleague who now works in hospitality management. The texts were explicit. Andy wasn't just kicking me out of the hotel early, she was trying to ensure I had no access to our apartment back home. Andy to L, Lopez has been great, but I need Rose out of the way for good. She's becoming clingy. I told her I'd pay her half of the rent for the next 60 days to keep her quiet, but I need you to confirm the movers will be there tomorrow before I fly out Friday. L to Andy, got it. Movers at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Don't forget to cancel the utilities in her name only. It'll make things messier for her. Andy to L, genius. Also, remind me to change the Hulu and Disney Plus passwords. She can keep the Netflix. The pettiness was astonishing. I was facing homelessness, and she was worried about the Disney Plus subscription. I kept scrolling. The texts went back weeks. They detailed the entire plan, coordinating with Andrea Lopez, 19F, to destroy my employment, offering me an allowance so I would be financially dependent, and then setting up an eviction plan so streamlined that I wouldn't even be home when the movers arrived. Security deposit mention was confirmation that she planned to keep that too, even though the lease was in both our names. I felt the blood drain from my face. I realized I had used almost all my PTO hours from the coffee shop to come on this trip, thinking it was a romantic gesture. I had maybe 2 sick days left. I couldn't afford the place alone. I needed the security deposit to even think about finding a new place. I sat there, staring at the screen, tears blurring my vision. My eyes were swollen shut already, and I knew I was ugly crying snot everywhere, mascara running down my face. I was devastated but also weirdly relieved because the truth, no matter how brutal, was finally out. I was done, just done. Then I saw a name in the contact list I didn't recognize. Dr. K, I clicked it. It was a Zelle transaction receipt for $500, dated this morning, Tuesday. The memo field was filled out. Final payment for the camera installation at the Aurelian. Must be operational by 6 p.m. tonight. Urgent. Wait, camera installation? At a luxury hotel? My mind went back to the specific details Andy always obsessed over. She installed a Ring doorbell on our apartment, even though we live on the 3rd floor of a walk-up. She made me share my location with her 24/7 on Find My iPhone. She constantly checked my Apple Watch steps against my claimed activity. I got up, wiping my face with the sleeve of Andy's expensive silk robe. I started scanning the presidential suite. It was huge, 2 bedrooms, a massive living room, a dining area. I checked the air vents, nothing obvious. I checked the smoke detector, it was the hotel standard model. Then I remembered the coffee table. It was one of those awful modernist pieces, a massive, solid black cube with no drawers. Andy was obsessed with it, saying it was Art Deco. She had insisted on moving it right in front of the window overlooking the city. I ran my fingers along the glossy surface. Nothing, but wait. She had been on a video call last night, saying she needed a new charger port for her tablet. She spent an hour in the business center down the hall, supposedly fixing it. When she came back, she set up this heavy marble sculpture on the corner of the coffee table. I moved the sculpture. Underneath, there was a tiny, barely noticeable circular discoloration on the black lacquer. I ran my fingernail over it. It was a sticker about the size of a dime. I peeled it off. Under the sticker was a small, pinhole camera lens, angled perfectly to capture the entire living room, dining room, and the entrance to the bedroom. My breath hitched. She had put a hidden camera in the suite. Why? To monitor me? To record something? To ensure I wasn't packing early. But then I thought about the text. Must be operational by 6 p.m. tonight. I looked at the clock on the cable box. 1:50 a.m. She was planning something to happen after 6 p.m., or maybe she wanted to record my reaction to whatever she planned to do when she got back. I had to get out. Now, I couldn't even risk packing. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, which only had about $40 cash, and Andy's burner phone, the Samsung Galaxy she used for international business. I knew the code to that one too. It was a simplified version of her main code. I felt a small, wicked sense of satisfaction as I shoved the phones into my pocket. I walked out of the suite and didn't look back. I took the stairs, not the elevator, terrified I might run into her. I made it to the parking garage and scrambled into my Honda Civic. I started the engine, my hands shaking on the wheel. I was just about to pull out of the space when I glanced down at the floor mat on the passenger side. Something was out of place. It was taped to the underside of the seat, almost touching the carpet. A cheap, black prepaid flip phone. It was sticky like it had been there for a while. My stomach dropped again, harder this time. I fumbled with the tape until I ripped the phone free. I flipped it open. The screen lit up. It was a burner phone. No contacts, just a few recent calls. And then I saw the message draft, unsent, sitting right there on the screen. It was addressed to Andrea Lopez, 19F. It read, "She's gone. Check the tracker. If she tries to go to her mother's house in Westfield, contact the lawyer immediately. The restraining order draft is ready." I stared at the word tracker. Restraining order. My mother's house in Westfield. I felt the panic turn into cold, sharp dread. She didn't just want me gone. She wanted to prevent me from talking, from going anywhere safe. And the tracker. Where was the tracker? She couldn't have put a tracker on me. I threw the seat back, my vision blurry with exhaustion and terror. And that's when I saw it. Taped under the center console, nestled neatly next to the emergency brake cable, was a tiny, rectangular device blinking faintly. A GPS tracker. He hadn't just been planning my eviction. She had been monitoring my location and movements for who knows how long, possibly since the night she bought me the car as an early anniversary gift 2 years ago. I ripped the tracker out, crushing it in my fist. I looked down at the burner phone in my other hand, and then at the 3 missed calls that popped up on my iPhone screen, all from Andy, within the last 3 minutes. She knew I was gone. I didn't answer. I put the car in reverse, screeching out of the space, desperate to get out of the Aurelian garage. I was going 40 in a 10 mph zone, tears streaming down my face. I finally pulled out onto the street. I was driving aimlessly when the Samsung Galaxy, Andy's burner in my pocket, started buzzing aggressively. It was a text message, not from Andy. It was a picture. Low-quality photo of the back of my Honda Civic, pulled over onto the shoulder of the road, right where I was 3 blocks back, just after I left the hotel. The timestamp on the photo was 1 minute ago, and the text below the photo was chilling. It wasn't from a contact. It was from an unknown number. The text read, "You should have stayed, Rose. This is only going to get harder." My blood ran cold. She wasn't at the hotel. She was following me. She was watching me right now. She had multiple phones, and she was tracking my burner phone, which was never supposed to leave the suite. I drove faster, pedal to the floor, my phone falling into the passenger seat as I realized I had just driven right into a trap, and I had absolutely no idea where to go that she couldn't find me. I looked in my rearview mirror. A dark SUV with tinted windows was accelerating fast behind me. The dark SUV kept pace with me for 2 blocks, which felt like 2 years, but then it slowed down and turned off onto a side street. I drove for maybe another hour, just screaming into the silence of my Honda, until I hit the outer suburbs, the ones where the houses are set far back from the road and there are 0 streetlights. I pulled over finally into a 24-hour Walgreens parking lot. It was maybe 3:30 a.m. now. I felt like I was going to throw up my half-eaten container of Talenti. Actually, I did throw up a little bit. It was mostly the $6 latte I had earlier. Nice. I checked the burner phone I stole from Andy, the Samsung Galaxy. The text with the picture of my car was still there, but no follow-up. I immediately turned the Samsung and the burner flip phone I found under my seat completely off. I wish I had time to delete the data, but honestly, I was too panicked to think straight. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't even dial my mom. She lives 3 hours away in Westfield, and the whole point of Andy's restraining order threat was to keep me away from there. I couldn't risk leading Andy's trackers or whoever that was in the SUV straight to my mom. I called my best friend, Chloe. It was 3:45 a.m., and she works at an accounting firm, so she usually sleeps like a baby, but I figured this was an actual emergency. Chloe answered on the second ring, groggy and swearing. "Rose, seriously, what is happening? Is someone dead? Chloe, I need you to be awake and serious right now. I just left Andy. I literally fled the Aurelian Towers like a fugitive." Spent the next 45 minutes sobbing and relaying the entire story. Andrea Lopez, 19F, sabotaging my coffee shop job, the fake generosity, the hidden camera in the coffee table, the eviction plan, the burner phones, the GPS tracker I found in my car, and the fact that some creepy SUV was following me after I left. Chloe's reaction was pure, unfiltered rage. That 70-year-old monster put a camera in the presidential suite to film you. Rose, that is beyond controlling. That is illegal. I know, but Chloe, I'm scared about the restraining order thing. She found out my mom's address. She's got money and lawyers, and I have $50 cash and a broken spirit. Chloe calmed down enough to start strategizing, which is what I needed. She's the only reason I passed high school chemistry in GL. Okay, first, you are not going to your mom's. Second, you are not going back to apartment 3B. That lease is toxic, and she will definitely try to frame you or something. But where do I go? You're coming here, right now. You know my lease explicitly says no pets, but says nothing about traumatized 18-year-olds. Just drive straight to my place, turn your phone off right before you get into my neighborhood, and park 2 blocks away. Leave your car there. You need to drop off the burner phones in a public dumpster 10 miles away. Right now. Oh? I followed Chloe's instructions like she was coaching a hostage negotiation. I drove another 15 miles, found an empty gas station, wiped down the Samsung and the flip phone with a gas pump napkin, and dropped them both into a huge industrial bin behind a Popeyes. It felt ridiculously cinematic and probably unnecessary, but honestly, it felt good to dispose of her tools. I finally pulled into Chloe's neighborhood around 5:30 a.m. I parked my Civic 4 blocks from her building, because paranoia is the new normal now, and snuck into her apartment complex like a thief. Chloe was waiting up. She just hugged me, didn't say anything about the snot or the running mascara, and shoved a glass of water and some Advil into my hands. So 2 days later, I was still holed up at Chloe's. I had called out sick from the coffee shop, saying I had a stomach flu. I didn't mention the part where my hours were already cut in half by Andrea Lopez, 19F, or that Andy had basically orchestrated my financial ruin. I couldn't face that reality yet. The financial stress hit me almost immediately. Chloe lives in a tiny studio, and I felt like a massive burden. My own portion of the rent for apartment 3B was due in 6 days. Andy had promised in those texts to pay my half for 60 days, but she was actively trying to evict me and freeze my access. I was already sure that money was never coming. I had maybe $200 in my savings account. That was it. Andy was blowing up my regular iPhone. I had 37 missed calls and maybe 100 text messages. They started off frantic, "Rose, where are you? I'm worried sick," and rapidly devolved into pure classic narcissist manipulation. Andy, 70F, text 1. "This is completely unnecessary, Rose. You are being dramatic. Come back. We can talk about this." Andy, 70F, text 12. "I know you read my phone. That was private business communication that you misunderstood. Don't be so naive." NGL, I almost laughed at the audacity of calling a planned eviction private business. Andy, 70F, text 35. "If you don't return within 24 hours, I am contacting the police to report my Samsung Galaxy phone stolen. I know you took it." She wasn't worried about me. She was worried about the evidence I had. Chloe was a saint. She helped me document everything. I took screenshots of every single text message from Andy, the Zelle receipt for the camera installation to Dr. K, and the eviction planning texts I had thankfully screenshotted before fleeing. "Rose, you have to talk to a lawyer," Chloe insisted, pouring me another cup of instant coffee. "I can't afford a lawyer, Chloe. You saw my bank balance. They charge $500 an hour. There are free consultations, or maybe student legal services at your college." I finally agreed. By Friday morning, 3 days after I fled the Aurelian Towers, I had an emergency 30-minute consultation scheduled with a legal aid clinic downtown. The legal consultation was depressing. The young lawyer was sympathetic, but the reality was messy. Since I had fled, Andy was technically still occupying the jointly leased apartment 3B. The lawyer said that while the texts proved her intent to commit illegal eviction and financial sabotage, the restraining order threat was serious because wealthy people like Andy often abuse the system. Since Andy had my mom's address, I needed to protect that information immediately. "She also has evidence that Rose took her phone," the lawyer pointed out, referring to the Samsung Galaxy. "Technically, that's theft." I felt my stomach churn, but I took it because it was evidence. "It doesn't matter, Rose. She has a much stronger legal team. Your priority is housing stability and safety. You need to officially terminate your lease at 3B, file a police report about the stalking and the hidden camera, and find a safe, permanent place to live." I asked about the security deposit. The lawyer said, "Given the joint lease and the fact that you left first, it's highly likely she will keep the entire deposit. You need to focus on getting your personal belongings out." I cried on the bus ride back to Chloe's. So the reality was, I was probably going to lose $1,200 of my own money, I was potentially facing police charges for stealing a burner phone I needed for evidence, and I was homeless. NGL, I spent that whole afternoon on Chloe's couch binge-watching terrible reality TV and feeling completely defeated. Update. This morning, Andy showed up at Chloe's door. Wait, not Chloe's door, my car. Chloe lives in a massive apartment complex with a private parking garage. Remember how I parked my Civic 4 blocks away? I thought I was being so smart. But Andy has resources. She probably ran the plates or used the tracker information from the other device before I crushed it, or maybe she just hired someone to sweep the area. I got a text from an unknown number at 9:15 a.m. Saturday. It was a picture of my beat-up 2018 Honda Civic, sitting innocently in the corner of the public parking lot, 4 blocks away. The text read, "I know you are close by, Rose. We need to talk about the lease termination. Come out and meet me alone at the Starbucks on Main Street in 20 minutes, or I call the police regarding your failure to meet the contractual obligations of the lease. And of course, the stolen property." I literally jumped off the couch. Chloe was showering. "She found my car. She's threatening the lease again," I yelled, panicked. Chloe came running out wrapped in a towel. She looked at the text. "Oh, hell no. She's leveraging the lease and the theft threat. This is pure intimidation." What do? I can't meet her. She'll try to manipulate me or worse. You don't meet her. You ignore the text. We call the police now and report the stalking. Calling the police was hard. I sounded like an actual lunatic, trying to explain that my 70-year-old CEO ex-girlfriend was following me with GPS trackers and hired a workplace bully, Andrea Lopez, 19F, to destroy my coffee shop job just so she could evict me later. The officer who took the report was skeptical, but took down the details of the stalking and the GPS device I found, which I had in a plastic baggie. We're less interested in the hidden camera, saying since I didn't have the actual footage, it was difficult to prove intent, especially in a hotel suite registered to Andy. But the stalking and the threats regarding the lease termination were enough for them to send a patrol car to the Main Street Starbucks. The officer called back 45 minutes later. "Ma'am, we identified the subject you described. She was sitting in a black SUV with tinted windows, parked across the street from the Starbucks. She claimed she was waiting for a business associate who was running late. She left the area when we approached. Andy was there. She was waiting for me, and she bolted the second the police got involved. That was a small, sweet victory, TBH. A week went by where I was basically a mole. I didn't leave Chloe's apartment. I ordered Postmates, watched terrible documentaries, and tried to study for my psych final. It went okay, C level, but I passed, which is what matters. I had to figure out the apartment situation. I couldn't afford to lose the security deposit. I contacted a lawyer through my college's student services who specialized in landlord-tenant disputes, advised that since the lease was joint, and Andy was actively preventing me from accessing the apartment, even if only implicitly by threatening police action, I could file for a temporary protective order to allow me to retrieve my belongings, which would also officially sever the lease without penalty, hopefully. This meant I had to go back to apartment 3B. I was terrified. The lawyer scheduled the retrieval for Tuesday afternoon. She arranged for a peace officer to accompany me. I felt like I was planning a CIA operation. The showdown at apartment 3B. Tuesday, I showed up at 3B with the peace officer. I was shaking so badly I could barely unlock the deadbolt. The apartment was eerily quiet. It looked exactly how I left it, except for a massive, gorgeous bouquet of white roses sitting on the dining table with a note. Andy wasn't there. She knew I was coming, probably thanks to her vast network of information, or maybe the lawyer was required to notify her, I don't know. The note was vintage Andy, perfectly written on expensive cardstock. Rose, I know you're hurt and angry, but I love you. Do not make this harder than it needs to be. Take your things. Leave the apartment keys with the officer. You know you belong here. We are meant to be. This is just a misunderstanding. I crumpled the note in my fist and tossed it into the nearest garbage can. A misunderstanding? Orchestrating my eviction and putting a camera in the hotel suite is not a misunderstanding. It's a personality disorder. I had exactly 2 hours to get everything out. I was efficient. I grabbed my textbooks, my small collection of vintage band shirts, my grandmother's jewelry box, and the small amount of cash I had hidden under my mattress. Then, I went into the main bathroom, looked at the medicine cabinet where Andy kept her toiletries. I knew she had a stack of financial documents hidden behind the towels, documents she used to manage all our accounts. The peace officer was in the living room, ensuring I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. I opened the cabinet. Behind the fluffy white towel, the stack of documents was still there. I didn't take the documents because that would be actual theft and I was trying to avoid jail time. But I did take one thing, Andy's passport. I shoved it deep into my backpack. I rationalized it immediately. She used her frequent international business trips as an excuse to cheat and hide burner phones. If she couldn't leave the country, maybe she'd be stuck dealing with the legal fallout here. It felt petty, incredibly satisfying, and maybe slightly illegal, but after the last 2 weeks, I honestly didn't care. I loaded my few possessions into the back of my Honda Civic and handed the keys to the officer. It's done, Rose, you're officially out of the lease. As I was pulling away, I looked up at the window of apartment 3B. The curtains twitched. I knew she was watching. Fast forward to Friday. I got a new job in an actual apartment. The coffee shop job was a non-starter. Even if I went back, I was working directly with Andrea Lopez, 19F, who was still, according to Lisa Garcia, 53F, via text updates, gloating about my demise. I knew I couldn't handle that level of psychological warfare while trying to recover. I applied for 3 waitressing jobs and got one at a relatively fancy but high-turnover downtown brunch spot. The pay is $16 an hour plus tips. It's a lot better than the coffee shop, and my new manager seems normal. I also found an absolute shoebox of an apartment. It's in an older building near campus. It's tiny, the carpet is beige and hideous, and it smells slightly of old cigarettes, but it's mine. The rent is $950, which is manageable if I work full-time. Chloe helped me move in, which involved carrying a twin mattress up 3 flights of stairs in 90-degree heat. Now about Andrea Lopez, 19F, and Lisa Garcia, 53F. Lisa Garcia, my friend's mom and the woman who initially tipped me off, has been texting me constantly. Is worried about Andy too, but mostly about herself. Lisa G, 53F, text, Rose, I need to know if Andy mentioned me. She knows I told you. I need money for my car payment and I'm worried she'll come after me. I called Lisa. Lisa, you did a really brave thing telling me the truth, but I can't protect you from Andy. I barely protected myself. And no, I can't send you money right now. I'm broke and trying to pay a security deposit. Lisa started crying and rambling about her deadbeat dad husband leaving her completely financially ruined. TBH, I had to cut the call short. It was a harsh reminder of codependency. I had spent 2 years taking care of Andy's massive emotional needs, and now I realized I was carrying Lisa's financial drama too. I had to set a boundary. I put Lisa's number on silent. It felt awful, but necessary. I had to focus on my own survival. As for Andrea Lopez, 19F, the workplace bully, I did something I probably shouldn't have, but I felt justified. I found Andrea Lopez's personal Instagram account. It was private, but I followed her using a fake account I made called Basic College Student 18. She accepted the request immediately. She posts endless selfies and motivational quotes, but there were also pictures of her wearing a huge diamond tennis bracelet. She captioned it, "Thanks for the early graduation gift, mentor." I screenshotted the bracelet picture, along with the original text where Andy was coordinating with Lisa, the other one, about paying Lopez for sabotaging my tips. I sent the screenshots to the new manager at my old coffee shop job. I didn't add any comment. I just sent the evidence of financial fraud and workplace bullying involving a minor employee, Andrea Lopez, and an external CEO, Andy Griffin, 70F. 3 days after I sent the email, I got a text from my old shift manager. Shift manager text, Rose, thank you for the information. We've conducted an internal review and Andrea Lopez is terminated immediately. She also has to pay back the diverted tips. You're also pursuing legal action against Ms. Griffin for interference. I didn't celebrate, but I definitely smiled. It wasn't about revenge. It was about ensuring that girl couldn't do that to another minimum wage college student. A small moment of weakness and the resulting chaos. A week after I moved into the shoebox apartment, I got a registered letter from Andy's lawyer. It was formal, cold, and demanding the immediate return of the Samsung Galaxy phone and her passport. Threatened civil litigation for theft. I felt the panic return. I still had the passport hidden under my mattress. I had completely forgotten about it. I texted Chloe. She knows I took the passport. I'm going to jail. Chloe told me to breathe. She's bluffing. The legal costs of pursuing you for a passport and a burner phone far outweigh the actual value, especially when she's facing a potential police inquiry about stalking and workplace fraud. But the threat lingered. At night, I couldn't sleep. I missed the huge, fluffy pillows of the presidential suite. I missed the feeling of financial security, even if it was a lie. I missed Andy's practice charm, the way she made me feel like the most important person in the room before she started destroying my life. I actually drafted a response text to Andy on my phone. I will return everything if you drop the legal threats and give me my security deposit back. I showed it to Chloe the next morning. You snatched the phone? Absolutely not. Do not negotiate with terrorists, Rose. She gets zero communication. Ever. You returning the passport now gives her power. Keep the passport. It's your insurance policy. I listened to Chloe. I blocked the lawyer's number. I went completely dark. The financial reality has been the hardest part. I had to sell my laptop to pay the first month's rent and put a deposit down on my utilities. I'm using Chloe's old dinosaur MacBook now. I'm eating ramen 3 times a day. My credit score took a small hit because I was late on a student loan payment while I was dealing with the move. But every time I look at my sad little apartment, I realize it's mine. There are no cameras hidden in the terrible beige carpet. No one is monitoring my steps or my schedule. It's been 3 weeks since I moved out. The silence is the biggest adjustment. Used to get 10 texts an hour from Andy, confirming where I was, what I was doing, reminding me how much she loved me. Now nothing. I blocked her number entirely. I blocked her on every social media platform she had, even LinkedIn. I sometimes get a text from an unfamiliar number, just a single, non-committal word like thinking or remember. I immediately block those two. I know it's her trying to test my boundaries. Truth is, I still check my rearview mirror when I drive home. I still flinch when I hear a text alert that isn't from Chloe. The trauma doesn't just evaporate because the monster is gone. My therapist, yes, I finally found one through Student Health Services, said I am dealing with complex trauma rooted in codependency and financial abuse. She helped me realize that Andy didn't love me. She loved controlling me. He manufactured chaos, the job sabotage, the eviction plan, and then stepped in as the hero to save me, ensuring I never felt strong enough to leave her. I'm not proud of how long I ignored the red flags. NGL, when she gave me that "you are strong enough to handle my truth" line about her serial cheating, I felt special. I felt like the chosen one. I realize now I was just the next mark, and she was testing the limits of my tolerance. Final update: the aftermath and where I am now. The police investigation into the stalking threats is ongoing, but slow. The lawyer advised me to hold onto the passport until I absolutely need to return it, or until the police investigation confirms the charges against Andy, which is unlikely given her resources. For now, it's my leverage. The relationship with Lisa Garcia, 53F, is awkward. She keeps sending me desperate financial requests, but I send her back links to financial planning resources. I've realized I cannot fix her life. That's a boundary I've had to enforce, even though it hurts my codependent urge to save people. Andrea Lopez, 19F, is no longer a problem. The coffee shop fired her, and I heard she had to return some of the money she diverted. Don't know what Andy did to her, but I assume their mentorship ended abruptly after the police showed up at the Starbucks. I still have bad days. Yesterday, I walked past a boutique selling $300 candles, and I felt a wave of crushing inadequacy. Andy made me used to a lifestyle that was unsustainable and toxic. I used to think I deserved the luxury. Now I realize I deserve peace, even if it comes with cheap ramen and beige carpet. Yesterday, Chloe and I went out. Actually laughed at a really stupid joke she made about my old mattress being infested with ghost bedbugs. It was the first time I laughed without immediately thinking about Andy. It felt genuinely good. I have zero intention of dating anyone over the age of 25 for at least the next decade, TBH. My focus now is on finishing my degree and paying off this damn electric bill, which is, thankfully, only $47 this month. I'm sitting here now in my shoebox apartment with the door locked and a triple-check deadbolt. My iPhone is charging and it's at 87%. I have 0 missed calls from unknown numbers. I'm eating cheap cereal for dinner. I'm safe. I'm broke. I'm tired. But I'm free. And that's a better luxury than anything the Aurelian Towers could ever offer. We'll update if anything else insane happens, but I sincerely hope it doesn't. Thanks for reading and for all the advice. You guys really helped me realize I wasn't crazy. I was just in a very messed up relationship with a very rich, very disturbed woman. Rose, 18F, signing off.